everyone! I hope that your writing is going well and that your homes are cozy and warm during this brisk time of year. I know I have been inactive for a while, but I wanted to pop in during winter break and give you guys a video about how to craft impactful villains. 3 specific ways to make your villains even more powerful, not just in the story, but also in the minds of the readers, making them really memorable and something that will just make the story that much better. So I've been learning a lot about antagonists with the last couple of projects that I've written, and what makes a good antagonist, what makes a meh antagonist, and how you can take the good antagonist from good to even better. So here are 3 things that I've learned that might help you as you write antagonists or villains or whatever the opposing force is in your story. The first tip that I have is make your antagonist's fear or misbelief the same as your protagonists. So if your protagonist is afraid of something, make your villain struggle with that same fear. Giving them, for example, both the fear of being executed, if you're in like a fantasy world and for whatever reason that's something to be afraid of. If that's something they're both afraid of, then you can work that into the story to show that, like, wow, they're afraid of the same thing. An example of this in a film would be Rise of the Guardians. If you're familiar with that movie, Jack and Pitch are both afraid of the same thing, which is being unseen, being ignored, nobody being able to see you. So their fear is that they will be unseen and nobody will ever see them. So another thing that you can do is have where the antagonist's goals directly oppose the protagonist's goals. For example, if your protagonist's goal is to get inside a city, maybe the antagonist's goal is to keep anyone from entering the city, as a very loose example. Whatever it is that your protagonist wants, your antagonist wants the exact opposite. Not to make life miserable for the protagonist, but because that's just what they want. It's even better, actually, in my opinion, if the reason that the antagonist wants what they want is not directly because of the protagonist, because it makes them feel a lot more independent and makes your story feel a little bit more alive, in my personal opinion, than if the antagonist was just like, oh, let's go pick on this person and make their life miserable. Of course, that's an exaggeration and oversimplification, but I think you see what I'm saying. It's a little bit more impactful if the antagonist already has their goals and then the protagonist comes along and is butting up against those already existing goals. So the third and final tip that I have for you as far as writing impactful villains is make the villain a picture or version of what the protagonist could have been if they had listened to their fear and their misbelief. So this isn't going to work in every story, but it is possible to have where your protagonist sees certain character traits in the antagonist, in the villain, that could have been them if they had chosen another path. Now, I know this is tricky to do and it's hard to articulate exactly how this works and what this means, but basically just making the antagonist, to way oversimplify it, the dark side version of your main character. Now, you probably don't want to be that obvious about it, but just having a couple of similar traits, whether it be the similar fear, similar goals, whatever it is, give them something similar that the protagonist can see, oh, that could have been me if I had listened to the doubt, the fear, the lies, whatever it is that they're facing. But they realize in the end they didn't. They chose to do the right thing, or whatever choice they had to make in your story, they realized that they chose to take a different path than the villain took. For example, if we want to continue talking about Rise of the Guardians, Jack decides to take a different path than Pitch to get his goal. Even though they have the same goal and they have the same fear, Jack uses different methods, and in the end, you as the audience realize Jack could have been Pitch, but instead he chose to do the right thing and to get his goal by helping others rather than hurting them. I hope that makes sense. Villains and antagonists and just characters in general are really tricky, and there's so many different nuances and things to how you write them, but I hope that sharing these things that I have learned over the past little bit about writing antagonists will help you as you craft yours. Happy writing and have a Merry Christmas.